Let's talk about the blueprint. Let's talk about the divine blueprint, the blueprint that God placed inside of you. 2025 is a year for those who are ready to take over. Okay? Mark my word, this is going to be a year that we really start to see even more of that separation that we've been talking about, that great divide. Okay? And in everyday terms and ways that relate to us, let's just keep it a buck. There's a lot of things that has been changing. Even when you look at the economy, for real, let's keep it real. That's why anybody, even for those who, may come across this video, I can't even fathom how certain people would not think that it's important to speak about financial matters during a time such as this. Things that have happened, things that have fallen apart, they're going to get worse. That separation between the rich and the poor, the wealthy and the poor, it's going to get larger and larger. Many people already right now realize, where's the middle class? The middle class has evaporated. The middle class has vanished. And now with these quote unquote tariffs, that's not going to help inflation. Shouts out to everybody who think that tariffs is a good thing for the inflation rate. You got to go ahead and take that economics 101 class. You see what I'm saying? Because that's not the effect that it actually would have. So this is a time to where it's like, it's not time to play. All right. For many of us, and even let's talk about 2020. Let's take it back. Many of y'all know I caught COVID in 2020, made a major transition. There were certain things that I used to do, certain things that I used to teach, and it just was no longer required. It doesn't stand in comparison to the divine, to that one spirit, to Holy Spirit. So there were certain things that I did, and when I caught COVID, it was like everything happened at once, and it was this major shift, which to me now, looking back in hindsight, it makes complete sense because the world changed forever since 2020. There are so many people, especially a lot of you who might have clicked on this video or resonate, even in a spiritual way. Many people have seen like just major shifts in their life since that time. Like everybody that I've met, and even people that I know online, everybody has a particular story. Like this was what happened. This was before 2020, and this was after 2020. So I said that to say, what really happened in 2020 still hasn't even fully manifested yet. Okay, we're gonna talk about manifestation some more too, because there's a lot of things that people don't really speak about, the truth of manifestation. That's why so many people watch so many videos, but so many people don't get results, right? But we'll talk about it. But back to this. Everybody has a blueprint, especially you as a chosen one. During 2020 and now, so many things have changed. Even when we look at what's going on in politics, like a lot is happening. There are major shifts. There are going to be people that are going to be moving out of the country. If any of you, excuse me, are listening to this and you've been thinking about moving out the country, or if you've been making plans, or if you already have dual citizenship, let me know in the comments for real, because, and even as I have this conversation, this is gonna, this is prophetic stuff coming out. So this is going to be a little longer than I thought. But even as I'm having this conversation and we're talking about that, like, understand, I'm not even talking about what's going on in the White House. Because, see, the thing about life, the thing about the world, and the only thing that is constant is change. That's the only thing we can truly depend on. So things that were happening and, were systems that worked 30 years ago, systems that they didn't work 20, 10, 5, systems that even worked for us 5 years ago. Shouts out to 2025. We're 5 years past 2020. That's crazy to say. But systems that worked 5 years ago don't work now. Okay? And so it's a very important time to really step into your power. It's time to apply the principles. Like, one thing that I was saying is, back then, I've been telling, especially people that are close to me, I might have said that on some videos, maybe on Patreon, but one thing that I have been saying since 2020 is that 2020 was just a warning. Like, think about the significant impact that had, and it was very real. I caught COVID multiple times, like, even now, like, not now, but, like, I've caught COVID within the past year, right? had 2 close relatives of mine pass away from COVID. I've seen this. So it was something that had a real effect on the people, regardless of how or what it was created, what created it. So that was a warning sign. It's like, think about how much things fell apart. Think about how many people lost their jobs with the shutdown. Think about how businesses were affected. I had just moved to Buckhead in 2020. 2 weeks after I moved, COVID shut down the whole Atlanta, whole United States. So I remember when I first moved to Buckhead, like after that time, almost every other, like I would say 70% of the businesses that was on the strip that I live was shut down. You see what I'm saying? Shut down completely. So things shifted dramatically, and now the same is still happening. There are certain structures that seem to be in place even now. Let me bring this to y'all, because one thing that we're going to be talking about, one thing that we are doing already on Pretty Boss TV Patreon, and there are some things that I've been creating behind the scenes. I've been preparing a lot for the masterclass. So I do have certain content that I haven't posted yet, but I will be posting as soon as we get through the masterclass. Okay, so I got a lot of things coming. But even as we're preparing for that, it's like many people want to do YouTube. Many people want to be quote unquote content creators, influencers, online entrepreneurs. And let me be clear, there's no difference between an online entrepreneur and a brick and mortar entrepreneur. There just may be a little bit slight variables, because I've had both brick and mortar businesses and online businesses. And to be honest, unless you really need a brick and mortar, I think it's crazy. Why have that overhead expense when there's so much service that you can offer and reduce that overhead cost completely? So, you know, things have been changing. All right. And it's a time where it's like, just the same way people lost their jobs, businesses were shutting down. You know, even people, like I'm saying, people who want to be online doing TikTok, YouTube, things like this. The game has changed, family. The game has changed. I'm going to tell y'all something. 2024 was a year where I worked. I did. I put in a lot of effort, and I'm not going to say that I didn't get results. Like, there were things that I was able to do, and it was only because of the systems that I started to implement this. Like, it was things that I was able to accomplish last year that I wanted to do for Pretty Boss TV that I would not have been able to accomplish without my new systems in place. And now that I've been able to improve upon those systems, I'm like, oh no, it's to a completely different level. And again, these are things we're going to be talking about in the masterclass on January 25th and 26th. If you're interested, link is in the bio. But we're getting into it because people are behind. Even if you want to do YouTube, even if you want to do social media, like the game has changed. Like, people who are still on here talking about, and this is important. Do not get me wrong. Like, don't get it twisted. Yes, titles are important. Videos important. Content is king. Period. Point blank. Will always be. From the beginning of when I was online, which is when I was a child. I started coding at 12 years old. That's my first love, okay? My first real love, my true love, all right? Started coding at 12, and for everything that I've seen, like how I've seen the transformation of how things have changed, it's incredible. But think about how now, especially when you're talking about doing things online and creating content, this is a completely different day. Like, people who are still giving and only getting advice that and doing a lot of the things on your own, for instance, how is it really possible for you to post 4 times a day? Let's say you post once across one social media. How is it really possible to post across all your social media things and be able to actually generate? You can't do that. Like, if you're gonna do that, you're spending your whole day doing that. So then there's but so much that you can do within that time, unless YouTube is your entire business model. And I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. I would never recommend for anybody to make YouTube their business model. Even for those of you who want to start a channel and you're thinking about monetization and things like that, I'm like, look, always think of YouTube the way that I did starting on. And this is probably has a lot to do also why I've been able to be successful online. And I have multiple YouTube channels. And some of my old YouTube channels that I started that I don't be on, that I grew pretty significantly, the reason I really didn't see them through is because I was starting those channels back, I want to say in 2016 or 2017, to show people that it wasn't too late and that it wasn't like luck to build a channel. Like, even for me, like, if y'all look into, like, I have so many random channels, but then I have like some significant channels where I grew, like, you know, a significant brand or like idea or something that was significant around it, and it's because it's not by luck. So I'm able to do that, and how I'm able to do that is, I always tell people, content is king. If you have good content, and if you have things that people are looking for and that people need, if you're solving a problem this prevalent at the time or popular at the time, this is where you're able to have your content come in and not even just stand out, but grow really, really quickly. You know, I've had channels, Pretty Boss TV took me forever to grow, but I've had channels where it's like my second video went 30,000 views on YouTube from a brand new channel. Another channel that I have, like one of the largest videos on that channel is like 1.5 million views, I think, last time I checked. This is, you know, beauty tutorials and things of that nature, especially that was prevalent during that time when I was focused on nails, and it was like a new thing to teach people how to do their own nails. So, you know, it's about, first of all, having that content, but it's like, okay, if you have content nowadays, it's like, okay, so what you're telling me I have to post on social media, I gotta post on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Twitter, this, that, LinkedIn. If you're doing all these tasks all day, what time are you gonna have? And you gotta respond to your emails, and you got to respond to your customers, and don't have a community or something like Patreon. How is it possible to keep up with all these things? The reason I know that it's impossible is because these are some of the problems that I've been facing for the past few years. Pretty Boss TV has expanded, Pretty Boss TV has grown, but also guess what has changed? One of my favorite books that we talk about in the community, we read it on Patreon together. We might need to do a rerun this year, especially at the beginning of the year. ¿Quién se ha llevado mi queso? Who moved my cheese? This is the name of the game. Things are always changing. And so it's like, even to take it back to what we were talking about earlier, people lost jobs. And this was so funny. That's why, think about how many people all of a sudden want to be entrepreneurs. Y'all understand that being entrepreneurs was like really looked down upon at one point. And even for me, when I came out of college, I was a chemistry pre-med student. Everybody just assumed from young, okay, med school. That was just like, duh for me. Especially people understand when you come from foreign families, you know how that is. But I ended up changing my major last minute, my senior year. So when I transferred colleges, I ended up becoming a super senior because I changed my major to finance, which has, I can't say finance paid off well, but I am a financier. So I guess it all ended up coming together through entrepreneurship. But I said that to say, most people that I know are like, well, why don't you do this? Or why don't you go get a job? Or why aren't you going to go to med school? And I ended up doing my business. I started it in college, and then I ended up doing it full time. Had a job for 7 months after I graduated from college, and have been full time with entrepreneurship ever since 2013. 12 years now in the game doing this full time, self-employed. Y'all see me, like, I take care of myself, my daughter, and in many seasons I've been able to bless many people, and I still do when I'm led. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, think about that. All right. It was at one point the entrepreneurship was like, oh yeah, okay, you're an entrepreneur. Now, after everybody who thought having a job was so stable, so many people lost their job in droves. This is why we're dealing with inflation now, because the amount of people who weren't able to get a check, and the government had to push out them stimulus checks. Of course, most of those people who got them did nothing with it but give it right back to where it came from. And we're in this situation with inflation, and tariffs are not going to make it any better. But I digress on that. I said that to say, this is extremely important to think about, because now think about how much people have grown in mindset of, you know what, a job isn't secure. I've been telling people this 10 years ago. People like me, we've been saying this. When I was an entrepreneur, I was like, why do y'all think having a job is so secure? Like, that's not secure neither. I felt more secure being the CEO of myself than being under anybody's company or anybody's thing. Like, I just, you know, anything, and I'm invested in what I do, like, you're going to put effort into that. You're going to put energy into that. Like, if you really are passionate about what you do and connected to what you do, you're going to work harder for yourself than you'll work for anybody else, you know? So it's like, that's the path I chose, and now it seems like everybody's open to it. Now, everybody, they even create a new term, solopreneur, and entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs and entrepreneur. I said that to say, when you're talking about creating content, and you're talking about being successful online, it boils down to that very basic thing before we even talk about the systems. It boils down to, what is your content? What problem are you solving? Okay? If you're doing something online that somebody else is already doing, and you're like, why am I not making any traction? This is why. And again, nothing new is actually under the sun. But if you're following somebody to the T verbatim and you're doing the same things, you're taking the same approach, no. Even if you're going to talk about the same thing or be in the same lane as somebody else, it still has to be your own flavor on it. It still got to be your own sauce. You see what I'm saying? So when you think about all those things, and even for those of you who want to do things online, understand that even before you start to move on these things, make sure that you really do your own research or contact somebody. You know, mentorship is important. Courses, things of this nature. You know, even for those of y'all, I've been getting a lot of DMs and comments about mentorship. I absolutely do mentorship, business mentorship. This is what I'm going to be focused on primarily through 2025 with Pretty Boss TV. My business services, you know, even if you don't know what you would need or want, business consultations would be very beneficial. But the thing is, now it's very important to have the right knowledge and the right tools in order to be able to compete today. And when I say compete, we're not talking about competing against necessarily other human beings. We're talking about competing against machines. And guess what? Other human beings, including people like myself, are starting to learn and have learned how to build many machines already. And these machines are the things that are going to continue to replace jobs. This is just the beginning. Like, we haven't seen anything. 5 years from now, look, at the rate that technology is evolving, and yes, we are also talking AI here, best believe it. AI has changed everything. At the rate that technology is evolving, who knows, even in 1 year, how many people jobs are going to get wiped out. And a lot of people are blaming it on AI. I'm going to do a video about this next. A lot of people are blaming these things on AI. AI is technology. AI is a machine. AI is not what's replacing jobs. It's people who are learning how to use AI that's replacing jobs. People are. But see, what people are missing is that the required skill sets of today have changed. When I'll give quite a little example. Like I told you, I've been coding since I was 12. When I started coding, it was when you're talking HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript started coming out and things of that nature. And so I was operating from that base level code. But then when I was in college, I was focused on other things, focused on business. Other codes started to come out. Then we had Python, things of this nature, things of this sort. And we were able to group those other type of coding into these and wrap them into these other programs to where you can do other things and more complicated tasks. And so even when we're talking about that, when we're talking about building websites, it got to a point to where I knew how to code from scratch. And then I was doing things when Dreamweaver came out. It's like you do it on the back end of Dreamweaver, then you upload that. You do those things. Then it got to the point where it's like, hold on, WordPress. I had to learn a whole new skill set. Like, I know how to code from scratch, but then with WordPress, it changed the game. But then WordPress, to learn that platform itself was a learning curve. But then when you learn it, it's like the easiest, funnest thing. But then Shopify came out, and it was more in alignment with e-commerce, because when I was building my e-commerce sites on WordPress, sometimes I would do so much order volume on some of my products that my site would just crash and crash and crash. So I had to use Squarespace, and then I finally started using Shopify. And then it was a learning curve on learning how to use Shopify. But then when I learned how to use Shopify, I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. This does a lot that I wouldn't have been able to do on WordPress, or wouldn't have been able to code when I was coding through Dreamweaver. So these are how things change. But if I just stayed stuck, like, you know what, I used to have to code from scratch. Now look, they have templates. If I stayed there, I wouldn't even be where I'm at today. I wouldn't have been successful with my businesses that I've had, especially in terms of like creating media. And when I did used to do branding and things of that nature for people, I wouldn't have been able to do any of that if I stayed stuck in that mindset. So things are about evolving. And even for those of y'all listening now, start thinking about what are going to be the things that are required moving forward. For one, critical thinking, problem solving, because bots don't solve problems. With technology, whatever you put in is what you get out. So even what people have are so far gone when it comes to talking about AI, because most people are really looking at this thing like it's an alien thing, like it's like, oh my goodness, what is this? This is something else. And it's code. That's what it is. And for people who code, it's like, to see the evolution of it is really mind-boggling. It's like, could have only dreamed about the things that are possible with technology when I was a kid on a computer now. It's crazy. Like, if I sat here and told y'all all the things that are possible with technology now, you and that you could do it if you knew what it was that I'm talking about. You could learn it. Even if you sat down for a week, 2 weeks, 30 days, you could learn things that would change your life or change the lives of others, and you will be able to provide services for them to help them. When I tell y'all, it's ridiculous. Like, if I said it, you would be like, it's impossible, or you'll be like, yeah, you can do that, but that's probably way too complicated. Woo! The things the technology have allowed us to do. Okay, we're in a time where you can think about, and the best way I can describe this honestly is, think about it, the Industrial Revolution, right? First it was like agriculture, and then they had slaves. Think about slaves. Even, and we're, it's so funny because when we talk about slavery in the United States, indentured servitude, but slavery in the United States, a lot of times it's like, okay, there was the war, Abraham Lincoln. But what a lot of people don't talk about, that I never forget learning about when I was a kid in school, was that somebody came out with something called the cotton gin. Somebody invented the cotton gin. So when you really think about these things, it all makes sense, because when you really want to see change, follow the dollar. Follow the dollar. Those of y'all from the United States, y'all know what this country is built on and has always been built on. And that's why those who lack dollars suffer, especially in this country, all over the world, but definitely in the United States as well, right? So think about the fact that when the cotton gin came out, this is a tool. So think about people who were into slaves and used that as a form of doing whatever they needed to do to make money, right? They used slave labor. When the cotton gin came out, this means you got a cotton gin that can replace a fleet of slaves. So even though slaves were free, you still have to keep up with slaves. You have to feed slaves to a degree of capacity. You got to take, you have to house them. If there's any medical things or anything like that, human beings die. There's all type of stuff, especially with the type of treatment that we're not going to get into. Running away. Like, there was so many things that if you could just replace all of those, for lack of better words, and we're just talking business here, headaches that came with slave labor, with a cotton gin, this is really what happened. This is really what changed the game regarding all of those things. So then the game changes. Like, okay, people who was using the slavery model, that system got outdated when the cotton gin hit. And I really want to say it was an African American that invented the cotton gin. It's been so long since I've been in elementary school. Y'all gotta forgive me. Okay? Shouts out to Martin Luther King Day around the corner, though. But think about that. That was a huge shift. So you got people, even if we're not talking about slavery, talking about a time where there was agriculture, sharecroppers, and then machines came out, factories came out. It was a big revolt against that, because guess what? Everybody who was agriculture, now they took a huge hit because the machines entered the building. The factories entered the building. They found a new way to automate. They found a way to do things that they were doing by hand. Agriculture, cow by cow, right? Corn by corn. They found a way to do these things at a large scale, produce it more rapidly, and to be able to do it cheaper, because it is able to do it rapidly for more people. Totally shifted everything. This is what we call the Industrial Revolution to the world that we have lived in to this point. Now there's another revolution. Now there's another one. Think about how the internet changed the world. Changed the world completely. This is what's happened now with technology. This is what happens with artificial intelligence, AI, which is coding. I want people to understand that. It's code. Okay. I want to say ChatGPT was coded off of Python. So when you're thinking about these things, understand that the blueprint over your breakthrough, the blueprint over your vision, the blueprint that you have been praying about. And when I say praying about, I'm not talking about the blueprint. You probably haven't been praying for a blueprint. Maybe some of you have, because you're on it and you found it. Okay, especially if you come across Pretty Boss TV. But for those of you who've been praying for certain things and just don't see how it's coming to pass, you've been praying for a while and just believing, that's one part of the puzzle. But faith without works is dead. Okay, so you're ready. The blueprint is already inside you. It's about extracting it. God is not a God of confusion, but a God of order. So when we're able to sit down and strategize, which God was also very big on in the Bible, strategy, this is when you'll be able to reveal what's already been inside of you. For those of you who have been doing 30 Days to Success, for those of you who are enrolled in the course, shout out to everybody. Shout out to all of you who leave comments on the course too. I absolutely love to hear your feedback and, just get how it's beneficial. Because I know, like I said, it's a game changer for me. I was stuck. I'm not lying, family. The first person I created 30 Days to Success for was myself. Because I knew the blueprint is a blueprint, but I had to be reminded of it, right? And so then when I started doing it, got me right up out of there within less than 60 days, right on it, right back to the blueprint, to the foundation that breeds any form of success that you want, that is now translating across other aspects. 30 Days to Success in my personal life has turned into all other types of systems that I can apply specifically to specific things. And in this case, business, making money, So the blueprint is inside of you. It's all about realizing that, and realizing that the things that you have been, for some, wanting to manifest or visualize or meditate or pray about or pray for, there's already a direct route for you to take regarding that. A direct route. There's already a blueprint for that. And especially for those of you who are anything interested or talking about entrepreneurship or business or career, finances, projects, blueprint for that. Whatever vision you have for yourself is something that you can do. And you could do it in a way that you probably don't even realize. The systems have changed. There's tools. There's new machines now. And this is what we're going to be talking about even in the masterclass. There are going to be certain things that I'm going to be touching on. There are everybody who comes is going to leave with a framework. Best believe that. A very specific framework for themselves. But more so, there are also going to be certain things that I'm sharing that 99% of people are not on right now. And they're behind the wave. In 2024, I couldn't understand how was it that I was trying to put out more content. I was doing certain things. And I'm like, it just seems impossible. What I typically did before 2024, when I tried in 2024, it didn't work. We can even see it from YouTube. For those of y'all who are on YouTube, y'all see how YouTube is like, look at the views. Look at the views on my channel. Y'all know this is a channel that gets easily, at least on a low end video, 15,000 views per video. And again, I know there's other things. Right now, I'm not even on putting this on the YouTube algorithm, because we can eat the YouTube algorithm. It's not about that. But, I know there's other factors involved. Like, certain people watch my videos, they expect to see a certain thumbnail, me to talk about a specific thing that we've talked about for many years. We have all of those prophetic messages. We do prophetic guidance still regularly on Patreon. Okay, that's where I always tell y'all, that's where we do that inner work. But we're also doing that outer business work over there, too. But it's like, how much content is out, even on YouTube alone, where it's like you click, you watch a video, it's AI. The thumbnail AI, the script AI, the video, like everything is AI, and poorly at that. Like, at least if people were taking time to generate high quality AI content, you can create high quality AI content. Or you can use certain pieces to help allow the AI to construct certain things for you that you've already came up with creatively, which makes a major difference in the output. But it's like, you think about that, how are you going to compete with people who are faceless, that are just automating slop YouTube content, slop Instagram content, slop TikTok content, with systems in place? And it's a blueprint for that. You got it. You're ready. Anything that you can think or ask, the Most High is able to do exceedingly above and beyond that. This is a time where those who are willing to open their minds up, those who are willing to be led, those who are willing to do something new, to learn, instead of when you hear, oh, this is the market of beasts, is the devil, instead of just hearing things and taking other people's opinions for face value, do your own research. Do your own research. Use the things for yourself. See what it does. Understand the nature of it. Look up. Even when we're talking about ChatGPT or AI, ChatGPT was coded with Python. It's code. But machines have went from only being able to for us to be able to communicate with them in zeros and ones, to then we had hypertext markup language, HTML, all these other things, to now machines can understand human language. That's all that's about. Okay. But anyway, so I didn't mean to ramble, but I did want to check in with y'all. You know, all of my links are below in the description, also on prettybosstv.com. Y'all hit me up. Also join the family, patreon.com/prettybosstv. And remember, yes, TAKEOVER 2025, January 25th and 26th. For those of y'all who are really ready to level up your life this year. Like, I mean, for those of you who are serious, for those of you who are ready, I mean, you could literally add a 0 to what you're making per month in 6 weeks. And you might be able to add another 0 in 3 months from that. You understand what I'm saying? It's real out here, but you got to know the systems, and people are being very distractive, but they're not talking about the new way to succeed. For real. So for those of y'all interested in these conversations, let me know below. Also, comment, like, subscribe. For those of y'all who are subscribed and haven't been seeing the videos, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and make sure all the notifications are hit. I love y'all. I'll talk to y'all soon. Y'all willing.